So if you would like to speak to the boards, you would come up the stairs and speak at the mic. That mic has to be there. We tried to get it downstairs, but technology says no. Okay, great. Oh, okay, great.
Hey, Ruby.
So, Andrew Rome.
Yes, please.
It's this one, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm going to start a timer. You have 3 minutes.
You need to turn it on.
Turn it on.
Better? Yep. So I just wanted to thank all of you for doing this so quickly, because I know that this was extremely unexpected, and that I wish you all the best of luck, because this is going to be very challenging, but I hope that whatever the decision is made is the best for the town and not for any particular group, but that it is for the best of the entire community and taxpayers of this town. Thank you.
Okay, could I please call Eric Weiss?
He agrees with him.
Okay, Jen Harris?
Nope, down here. Those are the public
Oh,
comments.
I'm sorry. Judah Wilkins?
Hi, Judith. Thank you.
Hi, it's actually Julia. I apologize for my handwriting, but it's Julia Wilkins. And one of my questions is, and this might get answered later, so I apologize if it will be, but I work for a health insurance company, and when I saw, the reason we're getting met today, I would love to know where information about currently the town makes its decisions about the health care. So basically, it sounds like there's not really the traditional fully funded organization that a lot of people are used to. So where can we kind of dive in and either find more information from you guys, or is it live on a public website that we can kind of see the details of that type of coverage?
Thank you very much for that. So in public comment, we don't answer, but that is something that we can discuss as a board when we're discussing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and Andrew already spoke. Is there anybody online?
If you are online and you are looking to speak, if you could please turn on your camera so we can see that.
Do you know how to get to?
It would show up if they put their camera.
Okay. I'm not seeing any? Are you seeing any? Okay.
So with that, I will close the comment.
Okay, all right. I'm going to close the public comment on behalf of the Select Board.
And the school committee.
The Finance Committee does not allow for public comment, so I'm not going to close it.
Okay. Well, I'll start by just saying I want to thank Steve for pulling this tri-board meeting together so quickly, and I'm grateful to everyone sitting around this table for making the time to come together to discuss this very pressing problem. Okay, is this on? If we could, Steve and Joanne, perhaps, could you please do a couple things? Define the problem, talk about when you knew this problem occurred, and answer a question around why we are getting this now, and any other pertinent information so that the town people can get a very granular explanation of the background on this and why we're all together.
Hi, good evening. I'm Joanne Miziazik. I'm the HR director. I'm also a member of the executive committee of the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust. We're a committee of about 6 to 8 members who represent various different demographics of units that contribute to the trust. The trust is made up of 73 units. Some are municipalities, some are utilities like Springfield Water and Sewer. Better? Okay. So there are 73 units that make up the health insurance trust. And the executive committee meets every other month or so. We've been meeting a little more regularly to monitor our cash flow. In July, we have identified that we were having this significant cash flow issue. We receive claims that come from the insurance company. Let me back up for a moment and sort of explain a little bit about how our trust works. So we are a joint purchasing group. So all of the units that I just mentioned, the 73, we all pay in a premium, and that premium is used to pay actual claims, dollar for dollar. So that's kind of a really basic explanation. We haven't been getting enough premium in to cover the monthly bill of claims, actual claims. So we dip into our reserves. At the time in January, we had $21 million in the trust reserves, and we felt secure and confident, but we did raise the rates pretty significantly in anticipation that things might get a little, in anticipation for bad things to happen, for lack of a better word. And then May and June came along, and those claims came in very, very high, higher than what we had anticipated, and we had to dip into those reserves. And those reserves have been depleted. We have enough to cover for July and potentially August. Without this rate increase, we would not be able to continue. So the rate increase is a projection of what the trust feels we would be billed for claims, which is really an unknown number. And so that's why we're where we are right at this current time.
What are units, and are some of those units in surrounding towns? And as a member of the executive committee, were you aware of this situation, or did the executive committee have this information prior to it going out in an email to all town employees?
You want me to take it? So as Joanne mentioned, the town of Belchertown belongs to the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust. There's 73 political subdivisions that belong to that group. The political subdivision is a town, a city, water district, fire district. Any entity that belongs is considered a political subdivision or a unit. The three big members are Belchertown, South Hadley, and East Hampton. They make up the largest share. There's 4,000 employees approximately that are covered. There's 12,000 subscribers. Those are family members and employees combined. And we're looking at significant changes for October 1st. We were notified by the trust on July 15th. That was the first notification that Joanne or I received from the trust that they were in potential insolvency, and that action needed to happen immediately. The trust is facing a lot of large claims. There was a significant number, over 100,000, that came in. The GLP-1 drugs have been a drain on the reserves. As Joanne mentioned, back in January, the reserves were over $20 million. Back in January, we were notified that the trust needed an 18% increase on HMOs and a 22% increase on PPOs. We asked a lot of questions of the trust. They answered them. We actually reached out to a broker to look at other options that would be available in town, or for the town and our employees. After a comparison of other plans, it was determined that the trust, even with a 18 and 20% increase, was still the most affordable option for us. What they saw was the market. Most increases were north of 15%, and they advised us to hold tight because we have a very good plan and competitive rates. We were not overpaying for our insurance. In fact, they thought it was a pretty good deal. So in July, when we were notified, we reached back out to that broker. We have an analysis that we handed out to everybody here in the room, including the members of the boards up here. It's a color-coded analysis. And the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust is still one of the most affordable options. The broker looked at that and said, we should, again, hold tight for now. If the trust can pull things together, it's still the best value for us. We are concerned about future increases. We're looking at future plan changes, if they'll be accepted, if they'll be available to the members. We're looking at any other option that we can come up with.
But Steve, just because I'm addressing concerns from, and I know I'm not the only one, about what we knew, when we knew, what we've done to anticipate this. And what I'm hearing is, in anticipation of rising healthcare costs, the premiums went up 18%. Am I correct on that?
We saw an 18% increase as of July 1 and 20% on PPOs.
So is there any way you could have known about this or anticipated this, either from the executive committee or from what was happening around other towns?
No.
Thank you. So on what Steve and Joanne just said,
Clarifying questions?
Hear anything.
You know what I'm going to suggest, Steve? If you hold the microphone a little further away from you,
I
think
agree.
it might help.
Yeah, for both of you.
But does anybody on the Finance Committee have any clarifying questions for any of the information that they just heard? Pull the microphone in front of you, Brian. Have at it. Have at it. Welcome to the committee.
All right, so good evening. So yes, I do. When this first came out, coming onto this without having a clear understanding of how this came about, of course I dove into the meetings and watched them. I went to town hall, asked some questions, got some additional information, and I went to the Insurance Trust website. Went through all their meeting minutes for the last two and a half years, and then I went to their financials page and looked at all their financial statements and their records. And what I discovered was between 2017 and 2021, every year they had positive cash flow. Going from 2021 to 2022, they had a negative $5,551,000 in cash flow. And then the next year, between 2022 and 2023, their negative cash flow, or actually it's an audited financial statement, so we can call it a loss, was $7,186,000. So that's $12,738,457, and that's as of June 30th, 2023. 2024 is not up, and that's over a year old. Their fiscal year ends the same as this is a state year on June 30th, so that's how they don't do their financial statements by calendar year. They do it by the same as fiscal year. So we're 18 months beyond that now. And if it's gotten so much worse this spring, and I went through the meeting minutes, and they have the balances and what they lost, not what they lost, but the negative cash flow. I really don't want to go into that because it hasn't been audited. So, you know, there could be money coming in that's not realized yet, so that would be unfair to the process. But from 22 to 23, those 2 years, a loss of $12,738,000.
12 million or 12,000?
12 million, sure. I'm sorry. To say that this is new doesn't pass the straight face test.
Is that because the reserves being too high?
So I went through a lot of their meeting minutes, and it seems it was apparent that there was an issue. And I'm going to go into how I think we got there, because the auditor does make a mention of this. However, they've been talking about the weight loss drugs all last year, at least the second half of last year through now. But that's not it alone. There's a lot more to it. And the further on you go into the process, the more they talk about changing the plans to include deductibles, but keeping some of the plans as is, realizing the costs are going to go way up. I'm not convinced that everything that's going to happen has yet been realized.
So do we have a copy of the 2024 audited financial statements that we could have?
I don't believe those have been done. I know that they have said they are,
So they
haven't.
didn't audit 2024, it's not an annual audit? Were all the years audited prior to 2024 in your research,
Yeah,
Brian?
2018 through 2023 is on the
So
website.
why
I've
would
got
2024 not have been audited?
I don't know. They talked about, we had a meeting this morning and they mentioned that they hadn't been audited
So
yet.
can you find out specifically why?
I believe it has something to do with,
24.
they haven't been able to connect with the auditor.
If you could maybe put something in writing to the town manager that he could share with the committee chairs and we can share with our committee as to why 2024 wasn't audited if you were already realizing over $12 million in loss by 23.
And I want to just make sure we understand this. This is for this trust.
This trust.
So this isn't about insurance plans across the board. This is about what's happening with this trust.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to.
No, thank you, Lori. So I dug a little deeper, and accompanying every audited financial statement, since 2020, it's been a management letter. And I read the management letter, and there's a section on the last page. It's been the last 4 years, and it's been part of their meeting minutes throughout just about the entirety of 2024. So they've been discussing it every month, it looks like, but I haven't seen any minutes really on it. But I'll read through this quick, but this is really important. One, recommendations, Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust recommendations. One, establish a general ledger accounting system, material weakness in parentheses. The trust uses spreadsheets to track the record revenues and expenses flowing through the operating checking account. The trust also uses QuickBooks, but it is currently only utilized to pay vendor invoices. Since the spreadsheet is maintained on the cash basis, it does not provide a complete account of all the activities of the trust. In order to create financial statements that are in accordance with GAAP, general accounting practices, audited accounting practices, a complete account of all trust transactions on the accrual basis of accounting is needed, which includes the recording of accounts receivable and accounts payable. A large number of material adjustments were also required as part of the audit process to record balances maintained in separate spreadsheets and other records provided by the trust. The implementation of a general ledger accounting system will provide the trust with a complete account of all transactions on the accrual basis of accounting and improve controls and oversight over the trust activity. We recommend the trust take the necessary steps to get this system up and running and consider hiring an internal bookkeeper or outsourcing the service through an accounting firm.
And that was at the end of
Wow.
That was at the end of
No,
the
this is
FY
20,
23?
21, 22, 23, and all throughout 24.
And now we don't have an FY 24 audit?
So this is, let me just read the trust response to that.
Okay.
And I think this is partially why we're in this position now. Trust response. The trust recognizes that the implementation of an automated general ledger accounting system would provide a more sophisticated level of control for the trust executive committee. The executive committee has discussed the accounting and treasury function of the trust in the period of time leading to the dissolution of the Hampshire Council of Government's role as a trustee. The executive committee is satisfied with the volume of transparency of financial data being provided to it by the current cash basis accounting system. The cost of purchasing a fully automated accrual accounting system and/or hiring an outside vendor would outweigh the benefits derived from such. The executive committee agrees to revisit this management suggestion from time to time. Hence, it was in the meeting, the agendas.
Might I
throughout
note
24.
that a fully functioning accounting software such as Sage, which can handle quite a bit, is $1,700 a year.
And they're-
I can show you an invoice because that's what we pay.
and they're-
This is the trust that we want to continue to work with? I mean,
Thank you for all that. I'm floored. Thank you so much for that information,
This is
Brian.
all public information. It's on their website. None of this is anything that I came up with.
I just want to pivot for a minute because the Select Board is blessed to have Nicole Miner serving on the board with us. Her career is based on these kinds of health plans, and I saw you shaking your head, and I want to give you an opportunity to speak, especially given what Brian's just said.
So to know that they were in the positive some years and to not invest $1,700
Right.
is ridiculous. But I said this before in our last select board meeting. Their brokers were encouraging the IAC to have more in their reserves than just 3 months to fund claims. And, you know, in my line of work, we always recommend 6 to 12 months of reserve funding. And, you know, municipalities historically don't have great claims. It's just kind of a known thing. And so if it were my recommendation, I absolutely would have went with 12 months of reserve funding. And although the IAC was recommended to do more, they voted against that. And they voted to go with 3 months of funding. And I said it at the last meeting, it's derelict. You know, I have a lot of ideas for things that they can look at, whether they remain in the trust or out of the trust. I have a lot of ideas, but that's more going forward. I mean, right now, I'm not surprised. There were years where they had they had savings to the working rates that they were charging to employees, and years where they just gave a flat increase. If you look at a regular, fully insured health insurance carrier, they would rarely pass on a zero or a negative to their participants. They would always try to get what's called a trend increase, which in 2024, 2025, a trend increase was anywhere from 10 to 12%. Granted, that's negotiable. The role of the broker is to always negotiate that down, but that's the starting point at least. And to just say, oh, we're just going to do zero or give a negative, again, it's just derelict to me.
So
And I concur, Nicole, because for 40 years I've overseen benefits at multiple organizations, including 16 at the current organization I'm with. I know what goes behind it. I know everything so that involves with it because I do it. That's part of my job. I fully concur with you.
So the question is, could we wind up back here again next year with the same problem?
100%.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not, so a couple of things have stood out to me. Number one, you know, they've got to increase, if you decide to stay in the trust, they have to increase what they have for the reserves, but number two, they have no aggregate stop loss insurance.
Right.
So that means that if you had just a ton of people, you know, incurring really high costs, we're on the hook for that. So to not have stop loss insurance, which is actually not that expensive, they have individual stop loss insurance, but not aggregate. I mean, that's kind of silly too, to not have that. So yeah, it could absolutely happen again.
It's almost like treating our health insurance costs like we're reimbursable for unemployment, like the
Yep.
liability could be endless based on the usage, and you can't guarantee. So without a stop loss or a stopgap, it could crush us.
It could. Yep.
So we're gambling.
Right.
Is what we're doing.
Yes, we are.
So to Nicole's point, this is probably for another meeting in terms of what we're going to do going forward. But does anybody else have anything they want to add for background before we go to the problem at hand?
I'm just curious, so if what we're seeing says like maybe this is not the company we want to stay with, is that something we can do now, or we just have to deal with this now and make a decision for next fiscal year?
We can address that. For the people who are watching who don't know, the IAC is the Insurance Advisory Committee that
Can you move back from the mic?
Or can you talk our way, because we can't
Is that
hear you
better?
at the table.
and a few years ago, they implemented a policy that they would only carry 3 months reserves, which may explain some of the negative cash flow, because they were trying to keep that around 20 million. For the groups here tonight, Joe Shea, the manager of the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust, is scheduled to be with the Select Board on September 2nd. So that would probably be the better place to ask some of these questions and what they're planning on doing about some of these.
And so, Nicole, I have a clarifying question for you. It is my understanding, although we're a nonprofit, we're not a municipality, but we can absolutely change brokers mid-plan year if we so choose.
You can, and I'll ask Joanne to just clarify this. I believe that we are on the hook for 18 months of run out, Joanne?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So what happens is we could up and we could probably leave the trust for September 1st if we wanted to, but we're on the hook for the next 18 months of claims. And
That come in prior to September 1st? That have come in prior
Correct,
to
lagging
September 1st?
claims. Now,
Okay.
most claims come in within 45 days of the date of service,
Right.
but, you know, they make you responsible for that amount of time just in case, so that the trust is not on the hook for those.
But we would only pay those as like a reimbursable. So if those claims come in, that's the only
Correct.
money we would be responsible for, and anything from, let's say, September 1st forward would be against the new insurance that we were paying if we so chose that route.
Right.
Okay.
One other comment that I would want to make with the trust is, so most self-insured plans have a component to them called terminal reserve, where if the policyholder chooses to leave the self-insured model and go fully insured, they have some protection in place that doesn't put them on the hook for all of those months of run out. And from what I heard in the call, there is no terminal reserve protection. And so or if there is, it's after 18 months. So to me, that just seems really long. That's a long time to be on the hook for claims.
And I would still like to see the audit or the reasons why not from 24, because I find that egregious that with everything that went on, which Brian just explained, he's very fact-based and research-oriented. So to not have an audit in 24, knowing all of this data, and not proactively seeking an audit or implementing any of the recommendations, even if it was just a couple $1,000s, I find all of that egregious.
So just a couple of things. First, the claims are managed by Blue Cross Blue Shield for health and CVS Care Card for pharmaceuticals. They actually and pharmaceutical. Yeah,
There you go,
better?
right there, right there.
The, in order to get out of the Hampshire County Insurance Trust,
They can't hear you.
is that still working, Kevin? All right. In order to get out of the trust, we have a 90-day notice prior to renewal, which is July 1. So we would need to let them know by April 1st if we were to get out. We cannot be out of the trust in September, as previously stated. And leaving the trust at this point would cost us more money than what we're here to talk about tonight. So I think we need to be careful about what we do.
Steve, is there also a stipulation that once you leave the trust, you can't re-enter for a certain period of time? Sometimes that's the case.
I believe I know they need 2 years of claimant. I think it's 2 years, right? You wouldn't be allowed back in for 2 years. And we would also have to buy in with a 3-month premium.
Yeah. So to that point, when I took a look at the rates back at the renewal, I really did go, wow, these are great rates for such a rich plan design, which kind of makes sense because they weren't able to cover their costs because the rates were so good. So I kind of agree that I don't think leaving the trust is the answer right now, because I don't think you're going to get the same kind of rates if you go fully insured outside of the trust.
And I'm going to follow that up with, we don't disagree that there was mistakes made by the trust or the Insurance Advisory Committee. And I think this is their wake-up call to straighten that out. But right now, we still have rates that are market competitive. We have insurance, and we have a lot of reasons why we can't get out. One of them is the run-outs of calls, and the other is the notice. And even if we were to get out of this, most of these other insurance providers won't accept us in outside of an open enrollment period. So we would have to do some sort of a private insurance on a short-term contract, which could be exceedingly expensive. So right now, this is what we have in front of us. I would suspect that after Joe Shea's visit here on September 2nd, there'll be a very clear message sent. There certainly needs to be better information sharing, because for us to find out about this in July, when it's been an ongoing issue for several years, is not appropriate. And I think going forward, we're going to see a much more improved plan. But I don't think we're going to continue to see exceedingly low rates with a very rich plan in the future. We are going to be market competitive. We've been lucky, and it's too bad that those days are over.
But we can't come back, we can't be here in a year. It's not a great plan if we are gambling with health insurance. It's not a great plan if we find ourselves in this same situation 12 months from now. I'm surprised, Nicole, that you would still say this would be a good plan to stick with, because it's going to...
So I'm not saying that the plan is a good one to stick with. I'm saying staying with the trust.
Oh, I see.
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely. Plan designs need to change. Deductibles need to go up. There's so many different funding solutions available. I'm just saying that leaving the trust, and I think to Steve's point, what would happen is if they leave the trust, a lot of carriers may not take on that risk, because if they even do get access to the claims, I think they're going to see that the claims are bad and they might not want to do business. Or because all of the claims are part of one big bank of communities, the trust may not give their claims to the carrier, and then the carrier is going to say, well, why would I invest in this? I don't even know what your claims are. So, I mean, I think it's like a catch-22 either way. I think it would be hard for them to leave and do better on a fully insured platform.
Right, because if you have over 50 employees, you are rated, your insurance rates are directly tied to the amount of claims that you receive,
Correct.
the amount of claims that are paid out, the anticipated, the trends, all the stuff that you know.
Yeah.
And so you'd have to have less than 50 employees to go into a group plan.
Yeah.
So just in terms of background, does everybody feel like we have the background?
I do.
Okay.
And but this is Mike, Katie, do either of you have any questions?
Has the plan design always been no deductible? I don't know a lot about the plan design, but has the plan design changed much over the years? No? And has the employee-employer contribution typically been the same? I think I saw 75-25 or 70-30.
And levels that applies. It doesn't matter if you're a single person on a single plan or if you're on the family plan or anything in between, the split is the same.
And it's been the same for many years?
For many, many years,
Okay.
which that can also, I think, be looked at
Yeah,
moving
I mean,
forward as a cost
70
savings measure.
Just to be clear though, 70-30 is average.
Across all plans?
Yeah, yeah, that's generally what we see is, I mean, a 70% contribution is generous, but average.
Okay.
When we went to a 70-30, one of the towns that we reached out to find out what they're doing for, to cover the financial impacts, they're actually changing their ratio and they're going to 75-25. So I'm only, we're at 80-20 right now to be going to 75-25. So we're already ahead of them at 70-30.
There's 73 units, so, you know, unless we have all of what everybody's doing, which we don't, there could be a spread. But having said that, I'm trying to segue, as long as everyone feels comfortable, with moving away from background into what the immediate need is and how we as a group want to tackle it.
I'm 100% in support of that. I feel like we have the background. The changing of that split might change in future years, but it's not going to change this year, and we got to figure out what we're going to do.
And I have two questions that I would love to have answered. So last year, the school committee, when we were discussing the 2.5 override, was pretty adamant that they wanted to hold off the closing of Cold Spring until the end of this year. I have since heard repeatedly that that may be taken off the table. So I would like to know if the intent of the school committee and the school leadership is to still plan to close Cold Spring by the end of this year, which would result in $500,000 of savings.
You want me to answer that?
Yep.
So in our last meeting, we kind of talked about different options that we have. So that is one. Regionalization is one. Combining, I forgot the third one. Oh, central office to town hall is one, or I'm sorry, to the high school is one. We've talked about all of this, and we are going to, at our retreat, look at the financial impacts of each thing to see where we can make the most difference.
So last year, at our final budget meetings, when we were talking about the 2.5, it was definitely asserted that the school was going to be closing, on multiple meetings, the school was going to be closing Cold Springs at the end of this school year. So you're telling me that now might not be a possibility.
So I don't think I ever said we definitely would. I said it was something we're trying to do, and it's still something we're trying to do.
I can go back and pull up meetings that it was said that we would be doing that. But that, I don't want to argue. I will happily pull up the meeting. I now want to know, and I want the residents, those on this meeting that are watching virtually, and the ones that would watch later on, if the school committee is now redacting that and saying that they're, it's only a considered option and not an actual thing that will happen.
So we're looking at several options. It is not one or the other, it's what's going to be most beneficial.
Okay, so I
So
just
if we
want-
find another option is actually more beneficial than closing Cold Spring, then that seems to me to be a no-brainer. that we
If
would
it can
go
be
with that.
done by the end of this school year.
Agree. We're looking at things to fix now and things to fix within the next 5 to 10 years.
Because I just want the residents who did vote for the override, who heard that as being something that was going to be done, that now that is only a consideration. So, okay, my next question would be,
Wait, I just want to concur with Lori, because I heard that as well. You know, that was part of the 2.5 that,
I don't want to do it in September, we want to
Yeah,
do it the next
exactly.
school year, we want to do it mindfully,
Yeah,
it was
so
discussed
That is definitely
repeatedly.
something we want to do. I'm not saying, hey, we're not going to do that anymore.
No, okay, but it's not something that you're immediately focused on. You're looking at other things as well. So I just want the residents of the town to know that. And so my next question is going to be, and then I'm kind of out of questions, but my next question is going to be, so in 2025, the school requested 1.25 million, give or take, as increase. We were only able to give $600,000, give or take, as an increase. At the end of FY25, there was a little under $500,000 remaining that was then encumbered for textbooks. What of that amount has been actually spent to date on textbooks as of today? And is the remaining balance that I think Jill could speak to, probably you have that information, don't you? Or no? Okay, but no, you can get it though, right? Okay. Can that money be unencumbered from textbooks and be used to defer some of the costs? Because that would be $500,000.
Yeah, sure, Lori. I just want to clarify about the textbooks because this comes up
I get
a
it.
couple of times. So we allot, every 5 years, we look at curriculum in the district for every subject we teach. I mean, I'm sure some educators could tell you they're still using resources from 1980. We don't encumber textbooks until the end of the year because what we do is we pilot 3 or 4 of them, we have a committee, we see what we can get, and then we get the purchase order at the end of the school year for the beginning of the new year. We can't just encumber the textbook monies without piloting series, having discussion, implementing them, having a committee, and then making a decision.
I agree 100%, but in this crisis situation that we are now facing, that we have to come up with the money, can that be pushed back a little bit to use those funds to defer the costs of the increase until we can find other solutions?
So we already encumbered our money to start this fall, so I would tell you no.
So it's already done
And I
deal?
know that Mark is working on the end of the year financials. Once that's set, I can tell you how much money is going back or not going back, but
Like even if it's 200,000 or 300,000 that would remain, you know, anything. Like
I understand
how
that.
can we find a solution to help defray the costs and any impact?
yeah, no, I
to
appreciate that, Lori, because
the whole
in
town.
my tenure here, we've given back every year except one.
I get it.
And sometimes it's 76,000, sometimes it's almost 200. So whatever we can help. But
What-
we do
right.
encumber in the second half of the year because a lot of things come up in the school district. I need special education. I got to make decisions, and then I open up the budget to spending.
I get it. I'm just thinking, can you or the school committee look at doing something with some of that money in the short run that
Right.
in the long run you'd be able to get back to do what you need to do with it to mitigate some of these
I
costs?
can't speak for the committee because we haven't spoken about this, but I think for me,
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
So we haven't met as a committee about this, so I can't give an answer on behalf of the committee, but Brian and I have been talking about it. And what can the school department do to help? And I don't have a dollar I could tell you today. I don't know if I can give you $15 or $1,000 or $100,000.
Okay.
I don't have a dollar, but it is something that's very important to us that we're figuring out every dollar we have to help towards this. This is not, we're looking for a bailout.
I get it. The schools, I'm just looking at the increase and what's really associated with the schools, and I'm trying to think outside the box on how we can mitigate the losses. Like, I know Cold Springs at least $500,000. I know, there was that money left at the end of the year. And I'm not saying, oh my God, you should have given it back or not encumbered it. But now that we have this crisis, can we relook at that and say we can live with 200 of the 500 going to textbooks this year and 300,000? I'm making it up.
This specific amount that we're talking about right now, that was the end of operations for FY24, which means that those encumbrances have been either utilized or not utilized. My thought is, from what I've seen, it looks like they've been pretty well utilized. Probably not 100%, but to a large extent. So, like this, it's too late for those funds because they were encumbered from the previous year to the year that we're closing right now. What the encumbrance, I don't know what is on for the FY25 end of year for the schools or any of us quite yet.
Okay. I'm looking for outside of the box. I'm looking for outside of the box. How can we find the money? How can we mitigate that impact?
Thank you, Joe, because I was going to ask that too, because that was and for me, we haven't spoken, but I think for me, kind of what Heidi had said is, it's FY25, so we're going to have to look at priorities moving forward. Like, can we do that for next year? Maybe we can, maybe we can't. But I think that we're willing to do our part in that. But it's also a decision I have to make with the school committee to see what priorities we could put off, we couldn't put off. I'm sure Steve may have to do the same thing on his side. So, but.
That's all I got. Those are only two questions. Those were the only two questions I had.
Okay, did that answer it?
I have, I want to speak to what came up at the last Select Board meeting, and that was, we have three choices. We can raid the Stabilization Fund, we can use free cash, or we go to the taxpayers. And I would posit that we have more than those three, and everything does need to be on the table. I'm in agreement with Lori in terms of closing Cold Spring. And so I'm not, because that right there would probably bring in 500,000.
When it comes savings.
Yeah.
It won't bring it in though till next year.
It could bring it in. It could bring it in.
Not if we kept the building open this year. If the building stays open until June, then we won't realize those savings until next year. So that will help solve next year's problem, but that won't solve this year's problem.
What if you closed in January? Now that's all I'm saying. Wait, so that's one piece of it. I want to take a look at, or at least speak to, the Stabilization Fund and free cash. There was talk among the group that free cash is something we could use. Well, that's operating, right? That's our operating budget.
60% of free cash goes back into the next year's budget.
Yeah.
And so we would then be 60% less than.
And I don't think we can, I mean, can you live with 50% less? I don't think the town can. I don't think the schools can.
Not on free cash. And the stabilization issue is it affects our bond rating if we dip into that. And so.
And it also means if we use stabilization, that we might fix this crisis, not to the tune of 1.4, 1.5 million, but if anything should happen in this town, if we have catastrophic weather, if, I don't know, fill in the catastrophe du jour, then we will not have the funding necessary to address that as a community.
And nor would we get a favorable interest rate because our bond rating would be in the tank.
Would be shot. So I look at those two options and think it's a little cavalier to say that we, that those are viable solutions, because it could mean that we have massive job losses if we can't meet operating. And plus our services to town residents, of whom, pay for the operations of all the services in town, are not getting what they paid for.
We've already added a taxation burden of 2.6 million on the backs of the taxpayers, so I would like to mitigate any further requests for additional taxation for
We
the
cannot go
townspeople.
back to the taxpayers again.
I would like to hear, sorry, I'd like to hear from the town accountant to see if she has a solution or have a couple recommendations. Sorry.
I'll go ahead. Oh, you're fine, but could we just review this table so that we all know what dollar amounts we're talking about? Thank you. I'm sorry, Jen.
No, that's okay. That was part of what I was gonna talk about. We're talking about, for over the next 9 months, a total of $911,000 for this 20% increase. That's the town's share, with the town schools and the enterprise funds, which will have the funding to take care of their own piece. So we're right around $897,000 that we're looking at right now. I'm not talking about FY27 at all. I'm
Under
talking
what?
about 26.
Under stabilization, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about what our shortfall is.
Oh, okay.
Projected to be.
And what would the portion of the school and the town be for that?
The school would be 656,000, and the town would be 241,000. That's based on what we're paying out, what we paid out in August, premiums, how they're split, times 20% times 9 months. Wastewater treatment plant. That's kind of my own little, that's wastewater. And I write landfill, and it's really transfer station, but I've been here too long to change my tune. With that, so we're talking about $900,000 for this fiscal year. I don't feel that we're talking about all or nothing. I don't think we're talking about taking $900,000 out of the stabilization or out of free cash. I don't think that's feasible. I think we all understand that there are going to be some cuts that are going to need to happen. I'm not sure that those amounts are entirely manageable, and I think that we could utilize some stabilization toward this unforeseen situation.
My numbers that I have are pretty spot on to yours. I had 656 for the schools and 242 for the town. I am in agreement with you, Jill, that it is probably a combination, but it is a combination that involves building closures. There may be, a conservative layoff strategy, as well as, and again, to understand if we can, in fact, increase the co-pays and deductibles, as Nicole was talking about.
Am I correct? We can't do that for this year?
No. And if I could finish, we will not be, I'm certain that we will not be looking at the taxpayers to give more. That's just not even feasible, and it wouldn't be fair.
So can we all agree that we are not going to go back to the taxpayers?
100% agree.
Okay, look at that.
Steve has something to say here.
Don't disagree.
All right, so,
I don't disagree, but I think there was a misunderstanding at the last meeting. We have the choices that I laid out. We're going to the stabilization fund, waiting for free cash, some combination of those two things, or living within our means. But regardless,
You can't move your head.
we have to go back to town meeting to adjust our budgets. We cannot make these to our budget.
So because Steve cut out, I'm going to say, he said we have to go back to town meeting for approval, but there was no mention of an override.
no, and it was mentioned by you, Steve, that we would have to go back to the taxpayers. That was the third choice. What's nice about what's happening tonight is we're all agreeing that that is not what we want to do.
We absolutely have to go back to the taxpayers for approval to adjust our budgets.
That goes without saying.
I think that there's just confusion. Going back to the taxpayers doesn't mean asking them for more money.
It's just their approval on the budget and, okay, so that would be where we'd be going to the taxpayers for? I agree with that. Like it would ultimately be up to the voting residents of this town, whatever we propose here, to decide whether they find it feasible or not.
And that's as it should be. So can we talk about what we're looking for solutions? Steve, do you have a potential solution?
Could I offer up a thought? Yeah. So I'm curious, and I'm not sitting with Brian, so I'm not even positive what we could do, but whether it was through losing programs or people, that would be my end of thing. But if the school department was able to come up with half of their loss, and the town was able to come up with half of theirs, could stabilization and free cash cover the other half? So we're not asking for the whole thing?
I don't want to touch free cash at all. We are finally on a path with free cash. What I would be willing to do is freeze it as it is now. We are supposed to go from 60-40 to 40-60 this year. I would be amenable to keep it at 60-40 for 1 year if we continue to go back on the path next year.
Would the finance committee be amenable to that?
No, because you don't have a mic anymore. You gave it away.
You gave it away. You're done.
Just clarification. Does that help the current situation? And I don't know if I'm understanding it, so I'm sorry if it's a silly question.
For me?
Yeah,
It would, because rather than, we had made the commitment, remember, right?
Yeah.
So that this year, it would flip from 60-40 to 40-60. And instead, I'm saying, let's keep it, let's pause. So that extra 20, which would be closer to goal, I'm saying for 1 year, we could keep it at 60-40.
And would the finance committee be amenable to something like that? Because I do not want to speak for the rest of the committee.
I guess I don't know if we can do that quite yet and make that decision because we don't know what next year's budget's going to foretell. So I couldn't tell you we could get free cash and get $200,000.
Right. We
That
don't
would be a
know how
joke.
much we'll have.
So I can't buy onto that
From
because I don't know what it's going to be.
Well, we did get a very round number. I think it was, what is it, Steve, like?
1.7 and 1.7.
We won't know until the end of the year.
1.5.
History.
I thought.
That's trending, but it could
I've
be
been on
completely
I've been on the
different.
finance committee, and we had $500,000  1 year, and 1 year we had 1.5. It fluctuates. I can't buy into that until I know what the free cash is.
What I'm saying is we would keep the percentage as is.
Yeah, but what if we only get 200,000?
Well, we would still keep the percentage as
It
is.
doesn't matter what the split is, I think.
A question for Jill. When do you send the free cash amount to the state to be certified? What month?
It usually gets certified in October.
October. Okay, so you have no inkling of
I can promise you it'll be more than 200,000.
Okay.
More than $1 million.
I would be,
Not in that place to
I would personally be amenable to the 60, staying with the 60-40 split for 1 year once we have more information in October on the free cash amount. Would anybody on the Finance Committee have a different opinion? Because you're free to share it.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, it's clear that we don't have the numbers, but sticking percentage-wise, that's all we can do.
Is that a decision we have to make right now?
No, we can just be amenable to consider it in October when we have more information. Brian, would you be amenable to that?
I would, but I got something else to ask, and this is a first meeting question, so forgive me if it's, no matter what we do, we have to pay for this. We have to,
Right.
I mean, we have to, the employees and their health care, I mean, that's paramount. It'd be nice to come out of this meeting with a path forward, even if it's not the final decision, at least something that everybody could live with. What about borrowing 60% from one of the funds, but paying it back over 3 years, the top 33% of that, so, I mean, that would be 601,000. 309,000 would be absorbed in the budget. You would pay that back 33%, the very first $200,000 every year over the next 3 years would go to pay back the stabilization fund or whatever it is. So it would remain an asset in that account. I don't know if that's how it's accounted for. In the real world, that's how it would be accounted for, but we're in the municipal world.
I think that's worth consideration, but it would have to be something that we all agreed on, and there could not, next year, there could be no turning back, like, oh no, we can't pay that back. Oh no, we can't pay that back. Like, we'd have to have a clear outlined plan that everyone who needs to agree agrees to, and then we need to stick to it. So you're saying find 33, what are you proposing we find this year?
If we do a 66.6, 33.3 split, it would be 601,471 we'd have to borrow from account, I assume, stabilization
What would it be if
fund.
we did a 60-40 split? I kind of know where you're going.
And the town existing budgets would absorb a certain amount of that, and we've kind of already discussed that. It's been thrown out there. And for the next 3 years, we would pay back 33% back to that fund. It would be tough, but that would come up to $200,490.44 per year.
Right, so we would have to commit
Yes.
from free cash that we would pay X every.
System doesn't like that idea.
That we would pay X each year out of free cash into the stabilization for the next 3 years.
Can't hear you.
Yes. Right now, we can't afford to operate without free cash, period. So to go further into debt, I don't think we can do that. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me how we're dipping into free cash right now, but then we say we're going to put a lot more back, but we can't afford to do that. And it's just a normal
having trouble
operating.
meeting our goals as is.
Right.
To me, free cash is off the table because we need to make sure we have money in the operating fund to run the services that the town expects us to. Touching free cash, even if we pay it back over time, threatens that.
We have in the past borrowed from stabilization and held ourselves to the repayment plan, utilizing the next year's free cash a number of times in the past. Do you disagree with that, Steve? How many? For years. For many years. So what we've done is we've borrowed from stabilization, but we've said, you know, we are going to repay it either all in 1 year, or we're going to pay it in 2 years, or in this case, maybe 3 years. And we're going to do that by the cut of stabilization of free cash that would go to that, correct? and we've always honored our word. So I think it would be maybe a 60-40 split instead of a 33 and 66. And what would that, can you do the math quickly? I have nothing, my phone's in the car.
60% coming out of stabilization or 40%?
Brian, were you thinking 60 out of stabilization and 40 out of this year's budget? He's doing math. Let's leave him alone.
I'm totally against that.
Well, let him explain. What would that be?
60% is 546,000.
And so what would that be per year for 3 years?
Divided by 3, 182.
182. So would that amount coming from stabilization, this year coming out of stabilization to fill the gap, right? Would that, how badly would that affect our bond rating?
That's not necessarily my area.
But could we find out how that would affect our bond rating? And then also, would we be able to agree to take X amount of free cash of whatever, what number did you say? I'm sorry, what's a year?
I was just saying the first,
right.
Before we spend any money in the budget the following year, we would take that $182,000.
$182,000 a year would have to be paid back for 3 years off the top of free cash. I don't know, I'm not opposed to it. I do still think that Cold Spring minimally, no matter, even if anything else is done, because you're going to be facing, I think the school committee is going to be facing a lot more costs that they're going to have to deal with. So I would be a fan and proponent of following through with what we discussed last year under any circumstances in closing Cold Spring, period, because there's 500,000 and minimally, and then we could sell Cold Springs and generate revenue into the town.
I do not think we are doing a service to the residents whom we serve to raid the stabilization fund. And if we take money from operating expenses, then that threatens what the school's going to be able to provide and what the town's going to be able to provide. This is what I would posit, and anybody from the select board that has anything to say, please do, but I would posit, I would be open to no more than 200,000 from stabilization that would be paid back, as well as Cold Springs being closed. I don't know if this is possible, but OPEB, if we didn't contribute to OPEB this year, maybe that saves us like, what, 30,000?
What is our OPEB balance? That was actually my question.
What was it?
What's our OPEB balance? That was my question.
Millions.
Yeah.
300 and
Yeah.
some odd thousand.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's not a lot,
no,
but, you know, if that could get us 30,000. And, you know, some combination of reducing our current operating expenses. But I think it's all of those. But even 200,000 is taking away from whatever happens if we can't meet it in town.
How many people need to be, if based on being a reimbursable, if we lay people off, we would have to pay their unemployment. So what is the formula with how many people need to be laid off to cover? So you need to lay off 3 for 2. So 3 for 2. We need to lay off 3 people for to cover the unemployment reimbursable costs for all 3 because we're reimbursable.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
So we're either going to cut budgets this year or we're going to cut budgets less over multiple years with this scenario. So we're either going to raid the entire budget, 600,000, 650,000 on the school side, 240 on the town side in this fiscal year, which is kind of counterintuitive to what we're talking about, cutting services and so on and so forth. it almost seems like if we can smooth it over multiple years, it's going to have less of an impact on the taxpayers.
I don't think you're counting closing Cold Spring.
That's not
I'm going to
my...
say again, that's not going to save us money in this year.
Right, that's
No,
not
but it would
for
save
this
money
fiscal...
next year.
100%.
It would save the money next year, and moving forward, and you still might have to make other concessions and do other things to meet the monetary amounts needed to have even a level service budget. I think that's just like one thing next year we're going to have to start off with, especially if this year we're having to address this with 9 months. Steve, do you have any thoughts about what Jill's saying? Or Brian? I'd like your thoughts. Or Nicole, or anybody else.
Nicole has one.
Just doing a little bit of math here. My recommendation would be don't touch free cash, don't touch capital. Jesus. Don't touch capital. Don't. Take the 300,000 out of OPEB and the 30,000 we were going to get next year from the OPEB policy. Get the 200,000 from stabilization and close Cold Spring. No cuts to anyone.
Yeah.
But when are you planning on
I think we absolutely need to look at plan design, though.
closed? Are you talking a January closure?
And then when you do close Cold Spring, that money can go back. Some of that can go to pay back the stabilization money that you took.
May I ask
You're
a
talking
question?
about you're talking about closing school spring in January, correct?
Whatever, whether it's January or June, I don't know how much cash you have to float yourselves, but if
Well-
it's not due, maybe it is January, I don't know.
So may I ask a question, and this is, I know it's going to come off like I'm being negative, but I'm going to ask it anyway. One, I would never close Cold Spring if it was up to me in January. There's a chain reaction. I'm not moving our little ones to close a building if it was up to me. None of you are in a school system to know how disruption that is. Secondly, you're not in the schools to see that. Secondly, how are you coming up with the 241 from the town side? What's being closed? What services?
Well, they're waiting to answer that. Can I just speak to the closing of Cold Springs?
Sure.
I know you say it's going to be disruptive, but quite frankly, I think it could be a lesson in transitioning, a lesson in having a new adventure, a lesson in flexibility. I think that could be life skills that could be learned not only by the kindergartners moving up, even at that young age, if I'm thinking about it, it can also be from the school they would move into, welcoming new students, whatever. So those are actually life skills, like things change, things happen, we need to move, we need to flex, we need to do this, we need to do that. I know they're only kindergartners, but if it's presented to them in an empowering, positive way, like, yay, this is going to be so amazing, the way the adults in the room and the way the educators and the teachers and the staff present it and the way that they structure it could be very empowering and could actually have quite a bit of
It could, and I
positive
respect
impact.
that, or it could be a total disaster.
Well, I think with you as the superintendent, it would be the way I think.
Well, I think it will be a
And
disaster.
I have to agree with Lori again. It is how the teachers and the leadership position this.
I'm sorry, I respectfully disagree with this.
I just want to finish. If this is done correctly and it is shepherded through by leadership, this could be a positive. And the other thing I want to say quickly is, if it comes down to closing the schools or going to the taxpayers and asking for more money, which do you choose?
You don't tell a 5-year-old who just entered school that now they're changing where they're going to school.
Might I?
Do you know anything about child psychology or how schools systems work?
So can
I don't understand financials, and I'm listening to all of you and I'm learning, but that's just a ridiculous statement to say.
So when my
right now.
daughter went to kindergarten at Cold Spring, She had 3 teachers in her first kindergarten year that she had to learn to transition due to a pregnancy, a sickness, or whatever. There were 3 teachers, and guess what? Not only did she survive, my kid is thriving. It taught
That's great
her,
for your
it
child,
taught,
though.
I get it, and she has tons of anxiety, which is very well known, and but it helped her to learn to transition. It helped her to learn to embrace new people, to embrace new situations. It did not have any negative impact on her with crippling anxiety.
So I do just want to say, you know, we appreciate the thoughts and, you know, I understand your perspective, but I think as a school committee, we need to look to our educational experts to tell us what is the best path. And, you know, currently it sounds like transitioning in the middle of a school year is not a great idea. But those are decisions that the school committee will make. And so I think we need to focus on what we can do in this year, and that is a decision that will have to come at a later point.
Can I also answer Lisa's question about what are we going to do, either close the school or go to the taxpayers? I'm not going to do either one. Neither one is an option. I would like to consider looking at Brian's plan of going 60-40 or even trying 50-50. I don't know what we could do, but
I don't want my question to be lost either. I want to know the 241 on the towns, how that's going to be made. I think it's a very legit question. We're all in this together. We have heard possibly, and I agree with Ruby, close Cold Springs, but may I ask what the solutions on the town are? Maybe we could copy some of that.
So I'd like to make, can you hear me? Can you hear me? So I'd like to make a statement. I just want to make sure that we kind of meet in the middle for everything. We have the employees we have to look at. We have the taxpayers we have to look at. So let's meet in the middle somewhere. We take $450,000 from stabilization this year, right now, to pay for this thing. We pay it back with free cash with the budget. Then the rest of the $450,000 we owe, the school would cut about $311,500, and the town would cut $133,500 from their budget this year. We're meeting in the middle. We help out the employees. We're helping out the taxpayers. Then we worry about FY26. We worry about Cold Spring. We worry about all that, and we talk about budget cycle FY27. I think we need to move forward. This is a solution that meets the taxpayers and the employees. We have to worry about our employees at the same time.
And let me tell you why I don't think it has. Yeah. And I agree.
Either one.
I agree. And you are actually not doing a service to either one of them. You're not doing a service to employees, and you're not doing a service for the taxpayers, because that's where if anything goes wrong in this town, we will not have the money to answer it. And I'm not going to be here to say, how are we going to?
We're not taking the money. We're just borrowing the money. We're paying it back with free cash in October.
No. But then if you're taking it from free cash, that's the operating.
We either have to, or then we have to cut $911,000 from the budget, and that would be a hit on the school, a hit on the town side, and we'd be laying off employees.
That's exactly right. And we can't guarantee how much money is coming into free cash. So this is a gamble I'm not willing to take.
So Steve, if you had to meet these financial demands, like Brian said, this year without any help or any resources to offset it from anywhere, what would that look like?
So I think we need to break this into 2 different pieces. We have a need right now to find approximately $900,000 for this fiscal year. We know that $900,000 is going to be due in next fiscal year, and I think we have some time to work through that, whether it includes Cold Spring School or not, whether it includes cutting employees or not. We have some time with that. I think if we try to solve both problems right now, we're going to just keep going in circles tonight, and that's going to be very difficult. So we have options. We can take some money out of stabilization and agree to put it back when free cash is certified, or we can say we're just going to cut our budgets. And I guess not necessarily cut our budgets. We would be transferring funds from expenses and wages into health insurance, and that's how both of us, Brian and I, would have to balance our budget. we would have to transfer funds. Brian has the authority to do that with the school committee, the Board of Selectmen, and the town manager does not. We have to go to town meeting to have those transfers made. But at the same time, we would have to go to town meeting to have access to stabilization. I don't believe we can take money out of OPEB to cover health insurance. I'd have to look into that a little bit deeper because there are some retirement benefits in there. But I do think we need to compartmentalize the problem into the two components that we're facing this fiscal year and next fiscal year. We have a stabilization fund for emergencies. In 32 years of working with the town, I've watched that fund go up and down, but I have never seen it be depleted entirely over an emergency. So I do think we have some time, if we were to take some money out and agree to put it back, that we wouldn't find ourselves insolvent over the next 6 months.
And if we didn't do something to give, there would be layoffs on the town side of staff and layoffs on the school side of staff.
I'm going to say wages and expenses.
Right, would have to be.
The town having to cover $240,000.
Right.
It would definitely be both, and I'm sure that Brian's going to say the same, wages and expenses.
So with the stabilization fund, we are supposed to have 5% in stabilization. That's what the recommendation is.
Right.
We only have 3%.
We have 4%.
We have 4.
We have 4.
Did we get to 4?
And if we took $400,000 out of that?
And well, I'm just saying, we're not even where we're supposed to be. Even if it's 4%, we are supposed to be 5%.
Right.
And that's what a healthy town has. And so even if we take that money out, we are not meeting the basic threshold for this community. And so I caution us not to be cavalier like we have this treasure chest of money. We don't. We're not where we're supposed to be as a community. And that's why I can say, okay, even though we're not at 5%, I can say 200,000, or I don't even want to say that, because we're not healthy as a community in terms of stabilization.
So I think it's going to be important for us to know, can we use OPEB money? Right? Can that get us to the 400,000? And I think it's going to be important for the two boards to meet and figure out what these losses are going to look like. Like whether the school was trying to cover 50% of their share or 40%, I don't even know. But I think it's going to be really important for the boards to meet before this group can make a decision on where to go.
So Heidi, so the schools are planning on covering 40%,
no,
you said?
No, that was just the numbers Brian threw out.
Okay.
I think one of the important things that we haven't focused on is that our kids need stability and our employees need stability. They've gone through the last couple years and felt like they were going to be cut repeatedly. That creates some very negative school environments. And whether or not it was done on purpose or by accident or anticipated, it still trickles into classrooms no matter how good a teacher you are, because you're worrying about whether or not you're going to have health care for your kids and your husband. Those are things that we got to keep stable for our employees in the long term. The one thing I haven't heard about is in our override, there was $500,000 set aside for capital expenses. That's money that's coming that could also be used in small pieces to help defer the cost of this over time. There's a lot of solutions that we could use, but if stabilization isn't for a crisis where a bunch of people could potentially lose their health care, then I don't know what it's for.
So I have been involved with town government for the better part of 16 years. It has always, Jill and Steve will support this. Anytime we have deferred capital expenses, it has added sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to the expense due to increases and what have you. There are certain things I would not agree to taking money out of the capital account, because every time we have done it, it has come back. Things have gone from $50,000 to $275,000. Remember the high school, the oil tanks, the school, the parking lot, everything. So by deferring that, it's going to, in the long run, create more financial devastation for the town. And those of us who have been doing this for a number of years can go on and on and on about all the times that that's been true.
A lot of that capital was voted for a specific purpose as well, and a lot of that capital spending is already underway. So it doesn't help us again for this fiscal year. That's a decision we could talk about for next fiscal year, and that's why I really think we need to look at one fiscal year at a time. Because maybe that is something we want to consider with cash policy.
Can I make a comment? I'm just going to come to the microphone. So I just looked it up. If the money is placed into an irrevocable OPEB trust, correct, cannot be withdrawn except to use on retiree benefits. So I think we have to look at what kind of trust we have. If it's a revocable trust, you can withdraw that money from OPEB for whatever operating budget needs that you have. So I think that's what we kind of would have to look into if we wanted to look at touching that 300,000.
So coming back to what Brian had talked about, does that affect us anyway? Almost like go to the bank, take a loan. We're going to pay the money back over 3 years, right? So if we all agreed we're going to take that 182, whatever it is, wouldn't we be in a better situation since we start school next week? The town school has been dealing with the worries of not having jobs and stuff. And then we have time to plan for next year. And maybe Cold Springs on that thing. And then we close Cold Springs. Where does that $500,000 go? Does it go back to the split? Does it go to the schools? Does it go to the town? What happens next year with the override money? We still have 1.6, you know, all that, which is in the bigger conversation of this. I just respectfully don't think you understand what it would be like to close a school in the middle of the year.
I have to say that shocked as I am with myself because of my feelings about stabilization and free cash, I agree with Brian's idea.
Oh my God, we're going to get hit by an asteroid.
Like, Brian, what is wrong with me? How many years have you known me?
Everybody duck.
I still think that the two boards need to meet and figure out what the impact is going to be for us, either entirely or partly, and then as a group here, we can meet and figure out what we can or can't do.
Brian, I want to hear, would we get a loan outside of stabilization, outside of free cash?
But then we'd have to pay interest.
No.
The whole idea of taking a loan for stabilization is so that money that we borrow remains an asset in stabilization. I mean,
We're not paying interest, and
right,
it's, and we've always,
so it stays an asset, so our balance really doesn't change, just the cash in the account.
and we've always paid it back. When we've all agreed to pay it back, I can think of probably 10 times minimally, at least, that I've been around out of like 16 years that we've borrowed and paid it back.
It'll hurt the next couple of years, but it'll hurt. Minimally, I mean, there's no good solution here. It's the best.
Well, it's a risk.
That we have to choose from.
It is a risk. I mean, Steve, am I wrong, or is this a risk? Sorry.
I guess, could you clarify the question? It's a risk in what sense?
If we take this loan out, even if it's paid over the next 3 years, does that put the town in a vulnerable situation should anything occur in town? Will we have the money to address it?
What percentage of this 900,000 are we thinking that we would take out of stabilization?
Brian, what were you suggesting?
60 was the discussion.
60% of the deficit. We come up with 40 and we take out 60 and it would be 182,000 and change payback every year for 3 years until it was made whole.
So what would the split be? I'm sorry.
And we also have money that's already dedicated that goes back into free cash each year.
Paying it with interest.
Right. I don't know what the split would be, but I think, the school probably should be looking at absorbing the school's cost, and the town should probably be looking at absorbing the town's cost, which is about 70-30, which is what we do anyway. So what, Brian, do you have the numbers, what the liability would be to the town and the school if we did that, what they would, no? I don't have anything, I got a watch. You know what I'm talking, do you have any?
I would say that if we did go with we're taking 60% out of stabilization, it would defray the town government and the school department by 60%.
Right. Much more doable. And then,
So-
again, maybe that could be from those textbooks that were encumbered that may not have been spent. I don't think they were spent as of like June or whatever, but maybe something like that. You can find money here and there. Steve, you might be able to come up with money here and there and cut some things and consolidate.
Well, part of the problem with hoping for some extra money in budgets is we're only a month into our current fiscal
Right.
year. So it's hard to project where we might have some extra. If we were 6 months into it, it might be a little bit of an easier decision. If we were to take 60% of this current need, it's 540,000. That would put us just under 2 million in our stabilization.
Right.
Depending on what we could pull from OPEB, any other known sources that we could find some money. If we agreed to put 180 or 200,000 back into it for 3 years,
Which we already do as part of our,
well, this would be over and above that. And then
Okay,
we
so
also
that's
have
what
the
I-
other
Wait,
amounts that
stop,
we
Jen.
put in.
What'd you say about cash? It would be, like, would we pay, as soon as we get it certified, would we pay the first 200,000 back this year?
doesn't it have to go through town? Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to go to town meeting, but yes.
Obviously.
Yes. So, yes, this May, we would put the first 200,000 of free cash back in, and then split the rest like we've been doing instead of, I think this group already agreed to leave it at 60-40 this year. And
Right.
these 60-40s are going to get confusing,
For 1 year.
but we leave the free cash distribution at 60-40 again. We're going to be taking money out of free cash as part of that process. This is the separate process, and putting it into stabilization. So at the end of this year, we would almost be back to where we started. Next year, we would start to gain and come back. In my opinion, I think that's a reasonable plan. I don't think it puts us at terrible risk. I can't imagine what would happen over the next 6 months that would cost the town $2 million. So I really think that it's a workable plan to do it this way. Jill and I need to work out some logistics with how we're going to show that on a spreadsheet so everybody can understand it and vote on it. Keep in mind that, again, going to the stabilization fund is going to require a 2/3 vote at town meeting. It's not new taxation. It's not an override. It's taking our savings account and putting it towards.
And would they have to
debt.
also vote, or could they also vote that we are required to put back over a 2 or 3 year period, or a 3 year period, or that's not part of the vote?
I think that would be.
That's a policy decision for the
Okay,
boards.
I was not sure.
Yeah. So I think that gets us into a better spot. And then Brian and I and the Finance Committee and the Select Board and the School Committee can start looking at the next fiscal year and how we're going to balance that. Because don't forget, next fiscal year, we're going to have free cash and we're going to have new growth. And we don't know what that new growth number is, but I can tell you over the last 3 years, free cash has been 1.5, 1.7, and 1.7. So they've been healthy numbers.
And a lot of that has been from excise tax, people
Right.
finally buying new cars, people finally spending
Well, I don't
some
know if you buy
cash.
new cars this year.
I bought a new car this year. I got my new excise tax back. I
So
paid my money.
But I think there's a lot of credence to what the school department is saying, that we need to have consistency for our children, we need to have consistency for our employees, and that goes for the town employees as well. Not knowing what's happening is always a big problem. And if we're going to do this, we need to get the town meeting sooner than later, because the longer we delay, if that decision is a no, then it just hurts the cuts.
Well, I'd like to ask if other select board members agree with this approach or have additional ideas or additional proposals they would counter with.
Someone's salary is, would we be willing to give up the OPEB policy money, the 5% at the 60-40 split? Because if it means one job, I'm all for letting that go for the year.
They're gonna have to be, so yes. Yeah. How about the finance committee? Does anybody have any thoughts or discussions on Brian's proposal? Brian B. Then we got two Brians. Brian B. Or G. Brian G. What the? Told you something's wrong with my head.
So I think
oh no, Katie's
we need
got a
to
question.
have.
Katie's got a question.
Oh,
So I was just going to ask, so if we can end up using OPEB, is there a way, I don't know what comes out of operations for retirement, but that can go to fund that frees up then money in the operating budget to fund some of this. Does that make sense? So you're kind of able to use OPEB because you are displacing some of your operating budget to use that, and then you can move your operating budget to fund whatever else you need to.
I think we need to review the law on that before. I don't want to answer that question without really looking at exactly what is stated in the law surrounding
I think that's smart.
the
And
OPEB.
what I was going to
accounts.
suggest is, I don't think we can vote on this tonight. We've got a lot of.
So could we come back for another meeting pretty quickly, like within the next 10 days, and have all the data we've discussed tonight to review and then make a final vote?
I would love Yeah, we meet on the next.
Like, so,
Then
what
we
Brian,
meet
like
on the
outlining on a spreadsheet what Brian's plan would look like, what the law is on the, just not tons of data, but like just enough, we know we can do this, we know we can't do this, we can, this is possible, this is what it would look like.
And I think, as just in my opinion, a non-negotiable is plan design needs to be looked at next year
100%.
regardless. I mean, I know we're talking about next year for the school, the building, but next year town-wide, we've got to look at plan design because, I mean, we can't end up here again because of this.
And I do think that no matter what, we need to close Cold Spring by the end of the school year because this is just going to continue to get ginormous with the expenses to operate. Some of it, but there's still going to be wage increases, so collective bargaining. So the only way we can change our plan is through collective bargaining. And so if we can't get consent through the unions to change the plan, is that correct, Steve?
That's a really complicated subject. It depends on how the contracts are currently written. It depends on the plan changes. It depends on.
We can't just assert we're going to change it.
Yeah, and the town doesn't actually make the plan changes. The trust would have to make the plan changes, and then we would have to react accordingly. So again, Joe Shea's coming out here September 2nd. There already is a lot of talk about plan changes. That's kind of where I left off before we got into these financials. We are looking at, or I should say they are looking at plan changes. They're looking at adding a high deductible plan. They're looking at everything and everything. They know that there's a problem, and we are expecting that they will have a plan to correct it going forward. If not, at some point, the financials are going to tip, and it will make sense for us to leave. Right now, they're still the more affordable option, so we're staying with them, at least for the short term, because of that and a lot of other factors. But we're going to stay on top of this. There's 73 communities that are very interested, and there's a lot more energy now than there has ever been. I'm not going to disagree that there may have been some complacency amongst the IAC, but those days are over. Everybody is being impacted by this, and they're going to be asking a lot of questions of the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust, and I'm sure there's going to be answers. So let me just recap real quick.
Could I
We are
just,
considering-
I know Brian wanted to say something. He's been having his hand up.
I
didn't see you,
okay.
Brian, I'm sorry.
Before you
Oh, no,
read.
Thank you. So, I'd hate to leave this meeting without, discussing how this is going to affect the employees of the school and the employees of the town. I know you alluded to that a little bit just now. And, I mean, how many of them? I mean, if you've got families with 4 children or something, I mean, they've gone up, what, 40% in a year? Their health care plan. How many of them are going to leave the plan and try to get something through the Mass Health Connector or something? I mean, has there been I've heard some scuttlebutt, but that's about it, nothing official. And I'd hate to leave this without mentioning that.
Yeah, I can tell you on my end, a couple of people are jumping ship and going with their spouses somewhere else or looking for other types of insurance.
The trust is allowing employees to opt out. And they're also allowing employees to switch from a PPO to an HMO. So they are working on that. I just want to go over the financials though, so I make sure we're clear on what Jill and I and Joanne are looking at.
On that note, has there been a communication plan that has gone out to employees that basically say that, is it called point of contact?
So Joanne has been communicating with the employees through email?
Well, it's more that the 2 plans are fairly identical, as I understood it in our conversation, Joanne. Yes. And if you could just speak to that, because that could also be helpful.
Yes, both plans are comparable. We have a PPO, which allows a subscriber and their family to go to any provider without a referral, in-network or out-of-network, it doesn't matter. And the HMO requires in-network providers and a referral. Other than that, the benefits are the same.
So as of right now, it sounds like approximately $900,000, we want to do a 60-40 split with 60% as a loan from stabilization. Am I right so far? 40% to come out of our operating budgets. That'll be distributed, or we would expect to distribute that based on the 40% of the breakout. We plan to repay the loan of the stabilization 1/3 of the amount a year for 3 years. That's going to come off the top of stabilization. The rest of, the top of free cash. The rest of the free cash will be split 60-40 again this year, if all of this is approved. We talked about foregoing the OPEB contribution this year, which is 5% of the 40. I guess where does that fall in? Do we want to put it back into stabilization, or?
I think that would be determined based on where we were at the time. Like if we borrow it from OPEB $30,000 and we really need that $30,000, we may or may not be able to put it back into stabilization. That is such a issue, OPEB, it's such a small amount. If we skip a year or two or even making a contribution like we did throughout COVID, I don't think it's going to red flag us with the state, do you? No. It's such an enormous liability, and we're in the top percent.
Okay.
With
I guess that's an FY27 question anyway, so we don't have to answer it tonight.
Right.
And then, as a side, we're going to review the use of our other post-employee benefits, OPEB, in case people were wondering, to see if we can use any of that to offset this year's deficit. Did I miss anything?
Nope.
Okay.
No, sir.
Other than trying to schedule another joint meeting.
Yes.
Can I get clarification on something? So this loan for $546,000, take out the OPEB policy for $100,000. So the loan amount is $546,000. Are we splitting that between town and school by the same percentage amount of what they currently contribute, which would be 72% school, 28% town, or are we doing something more around?
thought it was just covering 60% of the total or whatever.
So 60% is, so 60% of the 911,000 is the loan amount that we're taking from stabilization, correct?
No.
How are we further breaking that down between school and town? Is it the same percentages of what they contribute? Is it 70 to 28 or is it something else?
It would be the percentage times what our deficit is. So if it's, correct, 40% of the numbers you see on your sheet. So 40% of the 656,000 for the schools and 40% of the 241 for the town.
So
It's
of our own.
specific line, that line.
It's
I didn't do
60%,
dollar
folks.
amounts.
We're taking a loan out of 60% to cover the deficit. So 60% of the school's 656,352 would be covered through loan, and 60% of the town's 241,124 deficit would be covered by the loan.
Correct, and then they would be,
And that would be the amount to cut, right?
correct.
Yep.
And so what does the total bring us to? Does it bring us to 911?
So 60%, you would have the 656,532 reduced by 60% of the money coming from stabilization. You would have to then come up with the remaining 40% balance. Of the 241,124.40, the town would, that would be reduced by the 60% coming out of stabilization, and then the remaining 40% would have to be found through other means, cutting, whatever, doing whatever. I don't have a calculator with me, but that sounds, okay.
Yep. So it's not based on 9/11. That's the total amount. Our enterprise funds will cover themselves. It's based on the 897,476. Yep.
And then there would be interest that would be included in that as well over the next 3 years?
No.
We'd just be repaying
O-
ourselves
only if we
back.
get a-
It's like repaying, it's like a loan from your 401k. You repay it back.
all right.
And you pay yourself.
Yeah, the interest, I suppose, if you wanted to call it that, we're going to put our normal amount of money back into the stabilization, which is a percentage of free cash.
So with this, are we going to meet with our own boards and then come back together?
I would think so. We want to see it, we have to see it in writing, right?
Yes.
And, yeah, I mean, is everybody meeting? Are you meeting this summer?
Yes, we're meeting.
Okay,
this
oh,
week.
that's right,
Yeah,
that's right,
yeah.
okay. All right, and we're meeting next week, so we could go over it then?
And we could,
Could we do a
Finance?
Google poll for the week of the 25th?
and then would the finance committee be able to meet at some point between then? Perfect. So all three boards will meet separately, and then we'll come back together. And we'll have the data at the meeting that we come back together on with exact numbers, exact splits, exact repayments.
Yeah, we'll have everything worked out.
Can we get numbers for 50, for 60, 50, 40? Just to see the difference for all, like, cuts, if that
Right,
makes sense?
ask her.
I have a better idea what that would look like, where the cuts would be.
He's looking at me like I don't have a full-time job.
It would just be a better, to see where the impact would be across cuts. So the less money we take from stabilization, the better. We'll be able to make the cuts without.
Would that be you, Jill?
Okay. Nope, not me, I got a full-time job.
Brian, did you hear that?
I'll share. It's okay. I've got it.
Jill's got
I
it,
got
it's
it.
fine.
You are a copy.
I have a question for Steve. Have you talked to wastewater, landfill, and stormwater to ask them what the taxpayers can expect from this, if anything, in terms of increase in fees?
There'll be no increase in fees.
For what
fiscal year, you mean?
Correct. Yeah, we can make this work for this fiscal year. The week of the 25th is a little sketchy. Does late Labor Day week work for everybody? If we did like the 4th? We have a meeting on the 2nd, Select Board. That's when Joe Shea will be in attendance.
I got one in October. I just got back from the Hamptons, I get it.
Or the second week of September. That's the Select.
I'm out of town September 3rd and 4th.
So,
Oh, yeah, we do. We have the Tri-Board is already meeting on September 8th.
Okay, bam.
Yeah, on September 8th.
Oh, September 8th, we all have a
Yep.
joint meeting? Oh, my God, Jen.
So we're already set
September
up.
8th, perfect.
Yep.
Already everybody agreed. Can you go to that, Mike? Okay, perfect. Perfect, Jen. You brought it home, man.
Well, Brian, I have to thank you for providing a solution. If the Select Board doesn't have any other questions or any more input?
One quick one. If
Yes.
people want to be able to read this and understand more about it, where would they get that information and just so that
first
they can
we
see
have
it?
to get it, and we haven't got it yet. And then I would propose that, that this is something that we share through communications with the town, but also with the schools. Like, we want to be transparent, let them see.
Because the town's going to have to vote.
Yeah, so
And
the more
pass
they
this.
know, the better.
Right.
So by any communications vehicle, possible.
And then I'll check with you guys for a good meeting date between now and September 8th.
Steve, can we have our communications point person put something together about this and make sure it goes on the website as well as the local paper?
I'm going to say more to the end of August that we'll meet, because by that time, Jill, you should be able to have the paperwork to get it so we can have.
Now, we haven't
and digest
voted
it.
on this yet, so
No.
it's more like this is what we're talking about.
Right.
That's the one thing. We haven't voted yet, so it's not a done deal, so make sure that that's in the communication as well. Jen?
I was just going to say, so people are already confused. They don't understand why they haven't heard about, like, 'cause there was that one Gazette article that highlighted Belchertown only, and they don't have the list of the 73 the mix of municipalities and whatnot that comprise, like, there's been very little in the press about this, so everyone's like, well, why is Belchertown being highlighted? And so it's not just us, and I think that needs to be part. Right.
Well,
I mean, we know why. It's just the public doesn't, they're like.
And, this is, that was the whole point of kind of doing the background at the beginning. So I think including the pertinent points, especially around, somehow everybody here should have known this 6 months ago, and and so to explain what the timeline was, so that folks understand that this was not something we could have anticipated.
This might not be my purview because the Finance Committee does not make policy decisions. That's the Select Board, but I would be a fan of not releasing too much information prior to a decision being made, because if you put out information into the world and you say we're going to do this, and then we decide to do that when we come back to meet on September 8th, it creates all kinds of confusion. Once you put it out there, it's out there. So I think we would probably want to do a big communications blast once we meet on September 8th and everybody votes and everybody's in agreement on what we're doing, and then say, this is what we're doing, this is why, here's all your backup documentation, here's where you can get, any, and they will still have a time to vote on it at town meeting, and they'll have the information, like after a decision's been made, and then they can do what they so choose with it, and then they can show up to town meeting or not and vote in favor or against.
You know, I agree with you, but I also agree with Jake that we do need to put something out that lets people know what we're thinking about. This is not voted on, but at least lets people understand what, you know, how we're thinking about doing this. Because I do think that the residents may have, you know, ideas of their own. That's my 2 cents.
I do think that that's going to create more issues than it would solve, and that's my opinion.
Okay.
But again, we don't make policy on the finance committee. We really stay financially focused. But I've never seen a release of information before something is finalized turn out well.
Lori, I absolutely respect your opinion.
That's fine.
No. I'm weighing it. I don't know, Steve, where are you at with this?
I think we can put some very generic information out that we're looking at, a combination of free cash, stabilization, operating budget adjustments, so that we can get some information out but not be terribly specific, because if things change, we don't want to have to say things changed. So.
And come to the September 8th meeting if you want to learn more about it.
And I think definitely telling them what we're doing, because we've seen emails from people saying, please don't do another override.
Yes.
And that wasn't something that I was considering at the time, and that's not something the committee's consider, this group.
I don't know where that came from.
So I think it's important to say what kind of choices we're looking at, and if somebody is opposed to something, I think they're within their rights to be heard, and they can let us know.
Absolutely.
But because there's no real financial impact to others about this, and each board is going to talk about what those impacts are going to be to themselves, but I think it's fair to let people know kind of what we're doing, and people will come to our own board meetings to see how we're addressing it, and I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah. But we'll make sure to say, you know, come to the September 8th meeting.
I just wanted my opinion on record.
Okay. Is there anything more to discuss tonight? Brian?
What can we do as one of the 73, we're one of the 73 units in this trust, to make sure the trust is moving in the right direction?
September 3rd, 2nd, whichever day they're
Yes, September 2nd. Agreed. And one of the, I think, decision that this body made was, we're not going to solve that tonight. We have an immediate problem at hand. Let's solve that. And then the next chapter is moving forward. What do we do?
But there is.
Absolutely. And
Yeah, like we're going to need
2nd
to get some information. We're going to need to get some clarity. We're going to need to find out why that audit didn't happen, why, you know, something as simple as Sage software hasn't been implemented, which is super user-friendly, things like that, and very inexpensive.
Did they hire a bookkeeper?
Wait, did they hire a qualified bookkeeper? So we're going to need all of that information to look at in the future.
Yeah. Do I hear a second?
What's the motion?
Huh?
Oh, Jen seconded.
Oh, you seconded. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. School committee's out.
Motion? Second? Second, aye. All in favor? And we are done at 8:03.
Oh, Select Board done at 8:03.